Pod Apostle. Help us build the kingdom. Like, share, and subscribe.
So a familiar gospel in some respects, but I think at the same time a very complicated gospel in that, when we hear the Great Commandment, it's not always exactly the same. It's a couple of different words are mixed in there, and it's like, okay, well, which one is it? And I think part of the point is that Jesus doesn't want us arguing about words all the time. He says, you get the point. Basically, you get the point. And we should get the point. The greatest commandment is to love our neighbor with everything that we have. To love our God with everything that we have. And, the love is a virtue that is poured into us. It's called a supernatural virtue above our nature. It has to be given to us by God. It is the life of God given to us that we strive to live, overcoming our own natural kind of lack of love, frankly. Our sort of selfishness and our sort of kind of shallowness. And so we are always striving to love God with everything that we have and to love our neighbor with everything that we have. And, this is a repeat homily, except for I'm going to talk about Ruth a little bit. If you can't come up with anything else to confess, maybe you could say, I don't love my neighbor with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength. It's what have I done and what have I failed to do. And so we strive to love God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength. The God that we do not see, Jesus, I believe it is, Jesus says, don't tell me you love the God you cannot see if you don't love the neighbor that you do see. And I read a reflection by this poet, and he was like, of all the people that we have to love, our neighbor, why can't we love the person on the other side of the planet that we don't have to deal with all the time, right? So it is. It's a great challenge. Even the people under our own roof, that can be, So we pray today for the grace to love God and to love our neighbor with all that we have. And, the story of Ruth, the word ruthless has come to mean, merciless and mean, nasty. Well, Ruth is the opposite of ruthless. Ruth was helpful and supportive, and so Ruth is a word that carries a meaning that we don't use except in a negation, really. And the book of Ruth is interesting in a bunch of ways, but we're not going to hear much of it in the lectionary. We have this little reading today, and we have one more reading from it, and that's it. Okay, so if you want to read the whole thing, you got to read it yourself, and I would suggest you do it because it's very short, and it's a beautiful little story of God's providence and tragedy and overcoming tragedy. We hear about all these deaths in the reading today, and then we hear about Ruth and Naomi going back, and Ruth ultimately is going to be, the great-grandmother of King David and in the line of Jesus. But she's a Gentile, and she's not Jewish. She's not of Abraham's clan, and that's a big deal. That's a big deal. That is one of those instances where God is writing into the story of the coming of the Messiah the fact that his mission is going to be to all peoples, not just to the nation of Israel. And the nation of Israel, their mission was to bring God to all people. And Jesus recapitulates the nation of Israel in himself. So, my brothers and sisters, today we are challenged again to love God with all that we have and to love our neighbor with all that we have. And it's a project that I think we're all a work in progress, as I've said before, on living up to the graces that God has given to us.